Welcome to Travel with Sean. Join me as we dive into the wonders of the awe-inspiring and ancient marvel known as the Pantheon and uncover the fascinating sights in its surrounding area.
This is the Pantheon, very famous worldwide. It is a temple to all the gods, built by a Roman official named Marcus Agrippa in the year 25 BC. This temple had to be rebuilt 150 years later, and it was built on the order of by the order of Emperor Hadrian, completed in the year 126 AD. Move forward to 7th century AD, and this was converted into a Roman Catholic church dedicated to St. Mary and the martyrs. It is also the final resting place, the earthly tomb, if you will, of Raphael Santi, the famous artist and architect.
The Pantheon is one of the best preserved monuments in ancient Rome, and it is still a mystery today. Marcus Agrippa, a military commander and close associate of Emperor Augustus, originally built the Pantheon in about 25 BC on his own property to serve as a temple to all pagan gods. The location was near his temple to Neptune and his baths, the first public baths in Rome. The inscription above the portico reads, Marcus Agrippa, the son of Lucius, 3 times consul, made this. This inscription, along with a lack of surviving records, has been cause for some confusion, as we know that this is actually the 3rd Pantheon on this site. The first 2 burned down in about AD 80 and again in AD 110. The Pantheon was rebuilt in the 2nd century AD and dedicated by Emperor Hadrian in AD 126. Although the current building was dedicated by Emperor Hadrian, there is some speculation that the construction may have begun under his predecessor, Trajan, who died in AD 117. In recent years, many scholars have suggested that the original Pantheon was not a temple in the usual sense of a dwelling place for a deity. They suggest it may have been intended as a dynastic sanctuary, part of a cult emerging around Augustus, being a descendant of Julius Caesar, who had been the first Roman to be declared a god by the Senate. Tradition states that this is the location where Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome, ascended into the heavens 3,000 years ago. The Pantheon is positioned in line with Augustus's mausoleum, giving credence to the possibility that it had some purpose associated with worshiping Augustus and Julius Caesar as gods. By the time it was rebuilt under Hadrian, it was primarily associated with the power of the emperor and his divine authority to rule. Emperor Hadrian even held court inside the Pantheon, likely to symbolize his divine authority. The current building's domed ceiling is the largest ever built of masonry or unreinforced concrete. It has in its center an oculus, which is an opening that is nearly 29 feet wide. Although the oculus lets in rain, snow, etc., it was the only source of light in the building and the only source of ventilation. When the air comes in through it, the round shape of the rotunda causes it to circulate around the inside, creating a sort of air conditioning effect in the heat of the summer. It also helps to dry the floor after rainwater and melted snow seep through the tiny holes in the floor. The oculus also serves to support the dome by distributing the compression of its weight. The oculus is surrounded by a brass ring that dates back to the original building and is all that remains of the original bronze roofing. In AD 330, Constantine transferred the capital city from Rome to Constantinople, the city named after him, which is modern-day Istanbul, Turkey. In AD 609, Pope Boniface IV got permission from the Byzantine emperor, ruler of the Eastern Roman Empire, to convert the Pantheon into a Christian church. It was the first Roman pagan temple to be consecrated as a Christian church and was dedicated to Mary and all the martyrs. And this painting is of Mary, called Madonna of the Girdle, also known as Madonna of Mercy, painted at the end of the 14th century. The inside of the dome has 5 rows of 28 square sunken panels, which is one of the 4 perfect numbers as declared by the ancient mathematician Pythagoras. If you calculate all of the numbers that can be multiplied together to make 28, and then add them together, you get 28. For these reasons, the number 28 was associated with having religious and mystical connection to the heavens and gods. To the left of the sculpture is a bust of the famous artist Raphael. This sculpture is by one of his students and is called the Madonna of the Rock, and it stands over Raphael's tomb. This plaque reads, "To Raphael Sanzio of Urbino, son of Giovanni, most preeminent painter and rival of the ancients." This late 15th century painting is of the Annunciation, when the Archangel Gabriel told Mary that she would become the mother of Jesus, the Son of God. This 18th century statue is called Angel with the Holy Thorn and depicts an angel holding a thorn from Jesus' crown of thorns. This early 18th century statue was made to honor Pope Clement XI at his funeral. It is of an angel holding a ram's horn, which represents the last judgment and the call to resurrection. Now we have come to the tomb of King Vittorio Emanuele II. Known as the Father of the Nation, he was the first king of independent, unified Italy from 1861 until his death in 1878. This statue is of Queen Margherita of Savoy, the first queen consort of Italy, as wife of King Umberto I. This is the main altar of the Church of St. Mary and the Martyrs, also known as the Pantheon. There is just so much beauty in the Pantheon that it was a challenge for me to record as much as I did. The ceiling alone is mesmerizing. Here you can see that my co-videographer captured me recording the exit from the Pantheon and continuing out under the portico. There's a constant flow of people, those buying tickets and those that are part of a skip the line tour. The bronze doors of the Pantheon measure about 15 feet high and 7.5 feet wide. These are not the original doors from Hadrian's construction. The Pantheon's portico is supported by 16 Corinthian columns, each being about 39 feet tall and 5 feet in diameter. They are arranged with 8 columns in the front row and then 2 rows of 4 columns each behind it. The main attraction in front of the Pantheon is the Fountain of the Pantheon, commissioned by Pope Clement XI in 1711, with an obelisk in the center. This ancient Egyptian obelisk is one of 13 brought to Rome by various emperors. The obelisk is mounted on a pedestal with a dedication plaque to Pope Clement on one side and his coat of arms on the other. It is also surrounded by 4 faces, characteristic of the playful yet dramatic style of the 1700s, and surrounded by 4 dolphins, symbolizing the 4 major rivers of the world. Horses are fun to pet, but some get a little too friendly. If you want to take a buggy ride through the neighborhood, this is where you'll start. I found it also to be a good spot to take pictures of the Pantheon.
Now we're at the back of the Pantheon, which is almost as interesting as the front of it. The reason why is because of some of the ruins you see here. Historically, in ancient Roman architecture, when you see recesses like you see here, it means there would be a statue there, a small statue, relatively small, meaning 6 to 10 feet maybe. But there's nothing there now. And you can see this column is only maybe halfway tall, broken. And here we have the huge recess, which indicates there was probably a large statue there or a couple statues. And you can see at the bottom, there are rocks, looks like some sort of ruins. And you can see there was something attached to the wall on the left side. We don't know what. But I was talking about that broken column, and further left of this recess, you can see a complete column. It goes all the way up to the top. And it looks like they had something like that uh, going across here. From what you see at the very top, looks like that kind of ledge went all the way along the back of the Pantheon, which is now just in pieces. But at least the arch remains, the column remains. So here you can see what it's talking about, the remnants, the ruins of that ledge that went along the back of the Pantheon. Don't know what the purpose was.
As Rome evolved, many buildings were repurposed or demolished, leading to the loss of their historical connections. So there's no telling what used to be back here. After the 4th century Christianization of the Roman Empire, the Pantheon fell into disuse and neglect prior to the 7th century transformation of it into a Catholic church. During that period of approximately 300 years, the Pantheon, like the Colosseum and many ancient buildings, was used as a source of building material for other buildings. It seems then that the appearance of the back of the Pantheon as having more to it and something being broke off is a result of these historical changes and the natural aging of the structure. We see here evidence of something that used to be built alongside of the Pantheon. In fact, some years after Hadrian rebuilt the Pantheon for the last time, the foundation cracked badly on the side because of the soft, swampy ground under it. So they built a brick wall along the outside to provide extra support. The Pantheon was also part of a larger complex with several other buildings, which have been lost to history. There is so much about the Pantheon that still remains a mystery after more than 2,000 years since it was first built, and about 1,700 years after it was last rebuilt. Will we ever find out what happened? What was here? Who knows? Construction on the Church of Santa Maria sopra Minerva began around 1280, about 1,000 feet from the Pantheon, and took 90 years to complete. In front of the church stands the Bernini elephant, created by Gian Lorenzo Bernini in 1667 as a base for an Egyptian obelisk found nearby. The church's name comes from it being built over the remains of a temple dedicated to the Roman goddess Minerva. One of the church's most famous pieces of art is this statue of Christ the Redeemer, completed by Michelangelo in 1521. Originally, the figure was fully nude. However, a bronze drapery was later added to cover Christ's genitals, likely due to the Vatican's quest to hide male genitalia on sculptures. Although this is the only Gothic church in Rome, we find frescoes and sculptures inside from the 1400s through the 1700s. The earliest date back to the late 13th and early 14th centuries. The vaulted ceiling is both beautiful and impressive. It's a beautiful shade of blue and is covered with stars and saints. The intricately carved wooden pulpit was constructed in 1600. Ahead of us is the Carafa Chapel, and on its ceiling are frescoes painted in the 1480s and 1490s. The stained glass windows complement the frescoes by adding another dimension of color and light. Today, the interior of the church reflects its layered history, combining Gothic architecture with Baroque artistic influences. This blend of styles contributes to the unique and historically rich atmosphere of the church.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate your support. Thank you for traveling along with me. Until next time, ciao. Bye-bye.